Frank Lloyd Wright is one of the most influential architects of the 20th century and is widely regarded as the greatest American architect to ever live. He worked over 7 decades rejecting the historical styles and decorative details of the past. Instead, he developed the philosophy of organic architecture, which is the idea that a building should grow from the site and it should connect with nature. In other words, the building should be a reflection of its site. Wright believed that architecture was not merely about creating objects of aesthetic beauty. Rather, he believed architecture should focus on the living experience of us humans. Because architecture considers ideas such as movement, space, light, and material. This video will focus on how Wright tailored his buildings to not only respond to the constraints of different sites, but also how he choreographed specific human experiences. First, and one of the best examples of Wright's philosophy of human experience is the Falling Water residence in Pennsylvania. In essence, he placed emphasis on choreography of architecture with nature. Wright designed the building while giving great consideration to its location. The stone that is used in the building is from the site, and the concrete is also made with different components taken from the same site. Despite organic architecture being applied in Falling Water, the external appearance seems to confuse the viewer due to its dynamic layout. This layout was actually utilized since it aids in the further harmonization of the site and the building. First, the use of lateral cantilevers, structures which protrude outward with a gap below them, coupled with the use of corner windows, force the residents out into the environment, thus connecting with the site. In addition, the hatch at the bottom to the stream, the low ceilings which push out the residents into the environment, the textures and the sounds and the feng shui elements make the connection more intimate between the resident and the site. Specifically speaking though, feng shui is manipulated in a manner where the 4 elements fire, earth, water, and air meet together at a cross axis, which is at the middle of the house. Additionally, another intentional choice was to place the building over the waterfall so that its beauty did not diminish over time. For those that don't know, feng shui is a very common principle that is applied in interior design, where you ensure that your spaces are balanced by using all 5 elements: fire, earth, water, air, and metal, to make sure that they look good, aesthetically pleasing. Compared to the likes of Falling Water, the Johnson Wax headquarters is quoted as not that significant in Wright's portfolio. But this site has great historic importance in terms of how it revolutionized work environments. This building was created in a time period in which cramped and dispersed offices were the norm. Therefore, its creation marked the beginning of the use of modern large-scale offices for larger companies. Back then, it was SC Johnson and Son Inc. Now it's Google, Apple, and Amazon with their large-scale offices. For this reason, the Johnson and Wax headquarters was deemed by many as ahead of its time. Moving away from the scale though, Specific components of the building do cater towards human experience. More precisely, the Johnson Wax headquarters exhibits the choreography of work with architecture. The complex is divided in two parts: the Great Workroom and the Research Tower. The Great Workroom is a large and mostly single level building, which has a large workspace in the middle, as the name suggests. The interior of the Great Workroom is as follows. It is a continuous, horizontally expanded workspace with no boundaries and conventional floors. It had natural light coming from the ceiling, and everyone was working on the same level mentally and physically towards the same goal in the same space, with the exception of managers being a one level above to supervise. In some sense, it can be said that the architecture of this space was conducive to the productive work that was carried out there. There are no control devices in this space, such as there are no doors, there are no corridors, there are no partitions. It's not a general office. It is designed to yield as much as to yield maximum productivity. The only thing that stands out as controlled in some sense are the dendriform pillars. They have a unique tree-like shape which has diameters of varying length. At the top it is 18.5 feet in diameter, whereas at the bottom it is only 9 inches. Skepticism arose due to these unusual dimensions, which prompted Wright to demonstrate the strength of these pillars through tests. Nevertheless, these pillars act as a functional component of the structure of the building, along with being a element that can break the scale of the space, since the Great Workroom is considerably large compared to other offices. This, as a result, increases focus and establishes connectivity in the employees at the same time. On the contrary, the tower is opposite in nature compared to the Great Workroom, due to it having a different purpose. The greater height, smaller width, and the inclusion of levels embody the deductive reasoning that was used in individual research that conducted in the research tower. Deductive reasoning is a type of logical thinking in which an individual thinks in smaller steps to reach a certain goal. Although this is less interconnected than the Great Workroom, it serves its function just like Louis Sullivan, Wright's mentor, taught Wright, where the form of this tower is acting as a functional component of this building. Standing in the heart of New York on Fifth Avenue lies Frank Lloyd Wright's only original museum created by him. The other museums that were so-called created by him were actually houses or hotels that were converted into museums. Wright despised traditional museums that made you stop and turn in to go to different sections and artworks. The experience was not enjoyable that way. Instead, he wanted to create a museum that had a continuous and linear experience which was smooth. He brought that to life with Guggenheim, where he choreographed the indulgence in arts and culture. Unlike his other designs, which are more rectangular and horizontally compressed, Guggenheim consists of curved elements and is vertically stretched. The circular portion is a resemblance of an inverted ziggurat, In addition, this structure aids in choreographing the perception of art further, with components like the art pieces being kept on a continuous downward spiral ramp. For for clarification, the guests begin their tour by taking an elevator to the top and end their tour by walking all the way on the ramp to the bottom. They walk smoothly while enjoying the artworks along with the flow of gravity. Notice that forcing the participants to go downwards with gravity makes traversing the museum much easier and making the experience more linear and smoother as Wright intended. Furthermore, Wright manipulated the rails and walls of the building by making them restrict the art that was kept over there. You see, Wright did not want all the guests to gather around one artwork due to its size and significance. So he made the walls tilted, he placed structural piers, and limited the height of the art sections since it was with other the spirals by manipulating the spaces between the spirals to ensure that no large art pieces could be placed into. This is a thoughtful architectural choice considering that such museums may get crowded during shows. Moving on, we have the Robbie House, which is located in Chicago. It was a bold statement in Wright's career since it was one of his first works that clearly evinced the benefits of using the open floor plan. Although it is not, although the normal floor plan is not present in most uh, houses now, uh, it used to consist of rooms which had doors between them. So each room had a door between it, which really impacted the interconnectivity of all the elements within a house. Wright was not a fan of this, which led him to pioneer the modern open floor plan, in which there are certain rooms which don't have doors. Frederick C. Robbie, the client and the initial owner of the house, wanted a functional structure and he was not interested in historic styles and ornaments. Wright responded properly to this by choreographing the living experience of a house. To maintain privacy in the busy and loud city of early 21st century Chicago, Wright concealed the entry of the house behind walls and turns so that outsiders don't know the movements of the inhabitants. Additionally, smaller windows, which are placed in specific places throughout the house, ensure maximum privacy of the residents and external exposure of sunlight simultaneously. Moreover, the inside of the house and the corridors are compressed and expanded to enable the inhabitants to feel relived in the confines of their home. To be clear, the corridors are compressed and the living spaces are expanded. This expansion and contraction occurs throughout the house. Although diverse, Wright's portfolio still reflects his principles of organic design and choreographing human experience according to the purpose of a building. He carefully generated experiences ranging from work, culture, living to nature while using various techniques like compression and expansion artistically. From Wright, we can learn how architects can use their creative artistry to reinvent architecture and make a specific experience which they have envisioned in their mind come to life.